All right, welcome to Cooking in the Garden. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about soil pH and blueberries. And to do that, I guess I want to mention a few things. When you first start looking to plant blueberries, maybe you realize the pH is going to be a problem, and you get something like this to acidify your soil. And that works pretty good because you water through it, and it's got these little sulfur pellets, and as you water through them, you leach the sulfur into the soil, and that creates a lower pH that the blueberries love. And so that's a reasonable way to start. The thing is, leaching sulfur through pellets into the soil takes a while, and if you want to get started like right now, you're kind of too late. The soil is not going to be right for the blueberries, and this stuff takes a couple months to leach into the soil and get right. And so a lot of people substitute vinegar, right? Acetic acid. You put a tablespoon and a teaspoon, according to my last video when we tested this, into a bucket of 1 gallon water here in Taylorsville, Utah, and that gets you a pH of roughly 5. So when you water, that works. But what if your soil is really alkaline? What if the soil has lots of clay in it? And so I'm looking at a solution that gets to the heart of the problem faster, like right away. And that solution is sulfuric acid. In this case, battery acid. And I know that sounds a little crazy to you. So with the battery acid, it's basically the same as this, only it's in liquid form and it starts working immediately. And so I don't want you to be scared by the fact that this is battery acid. Battery acid is sulfuric acid that has a 33% ratio to water in the mix. And so all we're going to do in this video tutorial is I'm going to dilute this down by to about 3% so it's safe to handle. Battery acid is relatively safe to handle. It'll wreck your clothes, but unless you just splash it in your eye, it's not going to kill you. Even then, it won't kill you; just blind you. So the idea is to take battery acid, reduce it to a 3% solution, and then put a couple of drops of it into a gallon of water, and try to determine how many drops of sulfuric acid it takes to change the pH to an even 5 pH. Once you do that, you're able to pour it on your plants safely, and it takes effect immediately. Your plants love it, and your blueberries stay alive. So that's what I'm going to do. Let's get into it. So same formula as earlier when I was measuring pH. We're going to do the same thing sort of again. So I'm going to move a few things out of the way here. We won't need this. We won't need this. This is 1 gallon of distilled water. We are going to need that. I'm also going to do all my measuring in a glass cup. That's so that the battery acid can be washed out using my front garden hose, and I can give my wife back her measuring cup. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this distilled water. It's 16 cups or a gallon, and I'm going to take 2 cups out of it. In order to do that, I'm going to need a container to put that 2 gallons in. So hold on a second. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So I'm wearing my cooking hat, not because I'm cooking, but just because I'm a dork. All right, 2 cups. So I'm taking 2 cups out of this 16 cups of distilled water. And I'm doing that so that I can get my ratio right on my sulfuric acid. Okay, so now I'm looking at 14 cups of distilled water. Next, I'm going to open up this sulfuric acid container. You buy this at, like I bought this at O'Reilly's, my nearby auto parts store. And it comes in a container that's sealed. Let me get a few things out of the way. All right, so I got my sulfuric acid. So basically all I'm doing is taking 2 cups out of the, gosh darn it. All right, so I took 2 cups out, and I'm going to put 1 cup back. Only that cup I'm putting back is sulfuric acid. All right, so for all the lawyers out there, be safe. This is not extremely dangerous, but it's an acid. So treat it with respect. My first step, like I said, I'm going to take a cup and I'm going to pour it in. And I'm going to do so ever so gently so I don't spill anything. Right up to the line. There we go. Okay, so battery acid is in there. So anytime you're mixing anytime you're mixing an acid with with water, you don't pour the water into the acid. You pour the other way around, and that's because there's a heat reaction, an endothermic reaction that happens as a result of you making this mix. And so we want to be really careful because the temperature in this container will rise. And if you do it too quickly, then it will rise enough to melt the container, and then you got battery acid all over the place. So be careful. 1 cup. A little bit at a time. No big hurry. You're not in a hurry to do this. Just go slow. And don't get it anywhere, because if you're wearing nice clothes, they're wrecked, right? I am curious about the temperature. I'm not noticing it. Doesn't feel any different on the outside. Of course, I'm going really slow. I'm just using a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. I got a little on my table here, so I'll probably have to come back with some baking soda and neutralize it. Let's do another check. I can feel a little temperature change. Nothing too dramatic, just a couple of degrees. Okay, I'm going to set this aside so I don't get it on my clothes. And then I'm just going to put my lid back on real quick. Just going to agitate it a little. All right, so that said, this container needs to be wiped down, because I'm pretty sure I saw myself dripping acid along the sides. So before I get too crazy about touching it and handling it, I'll want to do that. But in the next step, I want to test it now. So if you watched my video about the pH meter, now that I've got a solution of roughly 3%, how much of it does it take to change a gallon of water to? My understanding is it only takes a couple of drops, and that's what makes the solution way more powerful than, say, acetic acid, where also this doesn't get eaten by soil microbes like acetic acid does, so it's likely to stay in the soil. So let's get set up for that. I have a gallon of pH 8 water that I got from just our tap, and I have my meter, and I just need now a couple of drops. To do that, I'll need a dropper, which I didn't bring with me. So hold on, I'll be right back with a dropper. All right, I'm back. I think we're ready to try it out. That's what I came up with. It is a dropper that has a milliliter measurement. I'm going to go with 1 milliliter. I want to test that out. Let's see if we can get a... oh, not quite. I'm just going to need to squeeze more. Okay. You can't tell, but there's a line on this at 1 milliliter, excuse me. All right, so that's 1 milliliter of liquid. So the question now becomes, did the pH change? And if so, by how much? So, I need something to stir with. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Just going to use this paint stirrer stick real quick. Just going to mix it right up. All right, moment of truth. When you put a milliliter of sulfuric acid in water changes from 8.0 to 7.7, 7.6. All right, so that's not super dramatic, right? That's okay. Made a minor change. Let's do it again. Okay. Second milliliter. Why do I keep saying millimeter? Second milliliter. Seven 7.3 there before I pulled it out. So not severely, not super dramatic like I had hoped. All right, 3 milliliters. I got it right that time. 7.3. This is going to take a little bit of time for me to get the number of drops dialed in. But that's the point, all right? The point is to figure out what the formula is, and then you can repeat it on a regular basis. So I will continue to add to this solution until I get to 5.0, and I'll be right back with you when I figure out what that number is. All right, so it takes 15. It takes 15 milliliters to make the change. A tablespoon is 14.79 milliliters. So this acid is slightly more acidic than what we were using here. So we can do it with a tablespoon, roughly. I mean, it give or take a little. If your pH is off just slightly, it's not going to make a huge amount of difference. There's a range that the plant is able to use. In coming back, you might notice I made a few switches. Trying to get the dropper to work in that was not working, so I poured it in my glass container, used my glass container to make my dropping work. So this container has a 5%, or excuse me, 5 pH, and that is so I can put that on my plants and use it to amend my water. And I have, as you can see, a large amount that I can use. This container from O'Reilly's was about $8, and I used half of it, 1 cup, to acidify this 1 gallon container of water. And then a tablespoon comes out of that into a bucket of water, and then that bucket of water goes onto my plant. Having the acid in the water makes it possible for it to dissolve the bicarbonates that are in the water, first of all, the dissolved minerals in the water, and then think about what's in your soil. If you did what I did and you planted your blueberries in peat moss, it's already going to be acidic. But as you water it with your regular tap water, it's eventually going to turn alkaline once again. And if you wait for the rain to drop on it, here in Utah anyway, the rain is going to slowly alkaline the soil. So the only way to sort of counteract that is to use either acetic acid or sulfuric acid to make a difference. Now you can use something like this on a long-term basis, and I do use this. A couple of cups of this around the drip line of my plants will slowly leach it into the soil, and so perhaps a combination of things to make it work. But battery acid is sulfuric acid, and the pellets that are in this are the same thing. So I don't want you to think that this is a dangerous way to do it, or I can see the comments now. You know, what are you doing putting battery acid on your plants? Well, what are you doing putting battery acid on your plants? That's what you're doing. This is the end game with these sulfur pellets, is that you acidify the water with with sulfuric acid. The difference is I'm getting there faster, and I'm getting there faster by using the liquid form of that acid. So I hope this was helpful for you. This will be really useful for me to know that a tablespoon to a gallon of water is my ratio, and that I can continue to take tablespoons out of this all season long. And I have enough here to make several big batches of that, so I could conceivably do this for quite some time. This is how they do it, and the University of Florida recommends, and they are a premier group for blueberry growers. So there's something to this, and it's relatively safe because now my solution is 3% roughly. You can wash your hands with it. I wouldn't. You know, it's sort of like bleach. It'll irritate your skin, but it's safe to handle, and you can keep it in your greenhouse or in your shed, and occasionally pull some out to water your plants. That's all I got for you today. I hope this has been useful. I'll stop wearing the cooking hat now. and I'll see you on the next video.